Good evening, everybody. My name is jahnhub, and I talk about video games on the internet. And today I will be reviewing Dragonball Z Budokai 1 for the PlayStation 2 and GameCube. So, when I was a lad, maybe no older than 6 or 7 years old, I was over at my brother's friend's house. And I distinctly remember, probably in an attempt to stop me from bugging my brother and his friends, they set me up on the PlayStation 2 with this game, Dragonball Z Budokai. At the time, I'd heard of Dragon Ball, but never really watched anything about it, so this was really my first exposure to a series that is now one of my favorites of all time, quite frankly. I'm like the go-to guy among my friends for any Dragon Ball lore-related questions. But anyway, I played up to the Cell Saga in the story, and then it was finally time to go, and I asked my brother's friend if I could borrow the game, and he said, yeah, I'll actually sell it to you for $100, which to him was a joke, or maybe he was trying to pull one over on a 6-year-old. But guys, I am dead fucking serious right now. I would not pay $100 for this game. They say if Bill Gates saw a $100 bill and a copy of Dragon Ball Z Budokai on the ground, he would pick up neither. And I think that's because he's more of like a Naruto guy, probably. Dragon Ball Z Budokai was released in 2002, and you can kind of gather that from the game's intro. Dragon Ball aired in America in the late 90s to early 2000s, and this game was really the first big Dragon Ball game that was released in America. As such, the intro to this game uses the Rock the Dragon opening from the English dub of the show, which I never really enjoyed personally. It always seemed like a song that they'd use for a show about fucking monster trucks or something, but it's being used with footage of a child frolicking. In fact, a lot of the elements of this game's presentation seem to have the purpose of making you feel like you're watching episodes of the show, rather than them focusing on making an interactive and fun experience within the world of Dragon Ball. So for example, when you finish a major story arc like beating Frieza or beating Vegeta, the game does like a next time on Dragon Ball type preview to show you what's coming up. But then there's no downtime between that preview and the next part of the story. They also replay that same opening I was talking about before at the beginning of every story arc. This game's story only covers the Saiyan, Frieza, and Cell sagas, so thankfully you only end up seeing that opening cutscene 4 times by the end of the story. It's a really strange design choice. What's weirder is that there's clearly an emphasis on making you feel like you're in the show, but there's a certain lack of attention to detail that even a non-Dragon Ball fan could pick up on. For one, Goku's iconic move, the Kameyamama, is just a yellow ball in this game. He also has a move called Continuous Kamehameha, which is just him shooting a bunch of ki blasts. Oh, and who can forget the classic transformation that King Kai teaches Goku, the King Kai Fist ×2. They also just straight phoned it in on the names of a lot of these moves. Zanku Fist, Instant Kill Quick, Jackhammer Fist Flash, which was also my nickname in college. And who can forget when Vegeta used the Gallic Cannon during his fight with Goku? Brother, I'll eat my hat before I let a grown man use a move called Domination Blast on me. Anyway, let's talk about the graphics. Yeehaw! This shit looked like Nicktoons Unite. Next. Unlike the graphics, this game's soundtrack is really good. It was composed by Kenji Yamamoto, and it's really good due in part to the fact that some of the songs were actually plagiarized. Take a listen. I'll leave a link in the description to a video that shows a lot more examples. Is it wrong to say that these songs are still bangers, by the way? One thing that this game gets right is that it's a fighting game. Everybody knows that Dragon Ball Z games can only be fighting games, and sometimes RPGs, and they can also be an asynchronous 1 vs 7 killer vs survivor PvP game, but only once. You can only do that once. Is it a good fighting game? Almost. Controls-wise, you've got 3 attack buttons. One for punches, one for kicks, and one for energy attacks, as well as a block button. Combinations of these buttons at the same time do basically everything else, from heavy smashing attacks to throws to even transformations. Unlike a game like Street Fighter or Marvel vs. Capcom, you can actually charge your meter in this game. To do that, you hold block and tap away from your opponent twice. This was always a strange input to me, as the shoulder buttons are mapped to different combinations of the face buttons, but there's no way of mapping one to just charge your ki. Inputting specific combinations of punches and kicks followed by the energy button will allow you to perform special moves. For example, you can perform the Kamehameha by tapping punch 4 times, followed by the energy button. For some reason, there's no way to just throw out a Kamehameha without doing that combo beforehand, so if you want to use your ranged super from a distance, you'll have to punch the air a little bit. For a series known for its fast-paced battles, there's also a weird sluggishness that permeates the controls of this game. Some of the moves are painfully slow and weak looking, and there's a lot of invulnerability frames on Wake Up. There's a clash mechanic if both players use a smash attack at the same time, but it takes like 20 seconds to resolve sometimes. There's also an input delay on top of a big input buffer that makes it harder to perform special moves than it should be, so you need to press your combo buttons slowly, but also make sure that you don't throw in an extra punch or kick input by mistake. Bro must think I'm Tortoise the way I have to play this game slowly and carefully. Anyway, are the game modes any good? The meat and potatoes of this game for sure is its story mode. As mentioned previously, you play through the Saiyan, Frieza, and Cell sagas, and fight most of the major battles from the series. The story does this weird thing though, where you do a run through as just Goku and Gohan first, and then after that you can repeat the story battles that you missed that include other characters like Piccolo, Vegeta, and even Frieza and Cell. I think they were going for kind of a good guy and bad guy story like in Sonic Adventure 2, but I don't really know for sure. Every battle kind of goes the same. You battle your opponent and a cutscene plays before or after. They shake up this dynamic 2 times in the entire story that I can remember, both in the form of mini-games of the same scene in the story. So in one you have to shimmy Raditz back and forth so Piccolo can shoot a fucking laser through his chest, and in the other you have to charge said laser. Both consist of rotating the left analog stick as fast as you can. Woo, that sounds fun. The game also has a tournament mode where you can compete to win in-game money to use in the capsule shop. To my knowledge, this is the only way to get money in this game. There are also multiple difficulties which determine how much money you win. The capsule shop itself is where you can buy new skills for your characters. For some reason, you have to create a loadout for each character from the abilities that you own for them. And the capsules you buy in the shop are completely random, so that's always fun. You can also buy the Dragon Balls in the shop, which is the only way to get them. Summoning Shenron with the Dragon Balls will allow you to wish for breakthroughs for characters, which are essentially an equipable skill that gives you the full moveset of a character, superseding the need for any other skills in the first place. Like any other fighting game, Budokai also has a duel mode. Pretty standard stuff. Here's a clip of me playing it with a friend.
What the fuck wrong with you? I'm on that good cushion, that good cushion. What the fuck wrong with you?
The only thing of note here is that you can access alternate costumes by pressing circle when selecting your character. To my knowledge, a lot of these costumes have not been seen in any other Dragon Ball games, which is pretty cool, honestly. The crown jewel of this game, however, is the Legend of Hercule mode. It's a series of battles where you play only as Hercule, who is canonically probably one of the weakest fighters in Dragon Ball, and it tells the story of basically what if he was able to beat everybody else in the Dragon Ball cast. You fight everyone under certain stipulations, like not being able to regen health, or being restricted to a certain amount of moves, and it's basically just a long story mission. It's also pretty cool, I guess. Dragon Ball Z Budokai is an interesting game. At first glance, it's a faithful retelling of the story of Dragon Ball Z in the style of the anime, but then you look a little bit closer and you realize that they really didn't do their homework in some places. Like, what the fuck is Final Bash? To the naked eye, it's like an alright fighting game if you're a freaking snail. I'd say only play this game if you're nostalgic for it, and definitely only if you're a Dragon Ball fan. I will give credit where credit's due. The soundtrack rocks. It's impossible to make Dragon Ball uncool. You can go Super Saiyan in this game, so legally I can't give this game anything below a light 3. So I'm going to be giving Dragon Ball Z Budokai a light 3. That's my review, and thank you all for watching.